Hi, I'm Mike Beliveau, and today we're out at Duelist Den. And what we're going to be talking about today is Merwin Hulbert's medium frame 38 caliber double action revolver. In 1874, Joseph Merwin partnered up with William and Merwin Hulbert. They were two brothers, and they were the half owners of the Hopkins and Allen gun making company. But they partnered up with Joseph Merwin, and they founded Merwin Hulbert as a firearms company. And Merwin Hulberts were manufactured in the Hopkins and Allen firearms plant. And they were marked on the barrel Hopkins and Allen. And to be honest with you, that was probably a mistake, because Hopkins and Allen did not have a great reputation for quality in the 19th century. But Merwin Hulbert revolvers were very high quality, and they may have suffered from their association with Hopkins and Allen. Well, by any objective measure, Merwin Hulbert Incorporated was not a success story. In fact, I think it would be fair to say that they were a business failure, a flop. They made quite a few models, variations of the Merwin Hulbert guns. They made them from large frame single action to large frame double action, open top, closed top, medium frames, small frames, spur triggers. But if you take their entire production and put it together for all models, it's probably under 15,000 guns made. And it's kind of hard to tell because Merwin Hulbert did not have great serial number control. So it's difficult to tell exactly how many guns of each type were made, but I think it's safe to say that it was under 15,000, and it could be well under 15,000. Now, typically, firearms that were a flop in the 19th century are not the most highly collectible firearms in the 21st century. And I think that was the case with Merwin Hulberts for quite a while, but 20 or 30 years ago, and I think largely spurred by cowboy action shooting and the renewed interest in 19th century firearms that came along with that, Merwin Hulbert started getting a lot more attention. And they deserved the attention because they were a very well-made gun. But of course, prices started to go through the roof. And these days, it's no trick. In fact, Merwin Hulbert in 1874 started off making big bore single actions, right? Like this. This is actually a second model Pocket Army in 4440. It's called a Pocket Army because of this bird's head grip, even though it had a 7-inch barrel. So I guess they had pretty big pockets in those days. Well, if you've got one of these in pristine condition, you can probably get $5,000 for it these days. Even in this condition, which is cosmetically less than perfect, though mechanically sound, I would expect to get well north of $2,000 for this gun today, which is a lot more than I paid for it 10 or 15 years ago. So these things have been growing in value, and the big single actions are where most of the money is, but the big bore double actions are pretty popular as well. So what that leaves you with are these smaller frame guns, like this one. This is one of their medium frame models. It's in 38 Smith Wesson. And comparatively speaking, these guns are still pretty affordable. Now, I'm going to be honest. Compared to a Smith Wesson double action, pull one up. Compared to a Smith Wesson double action like this, of the same vintage, this gun will cost you 2 times what that Smith & Wesson will cost you. And Smith & Wesson's cost 2 or 3 times what their clones from Harrington Richardson, Hopkins Allen, Iver Johnson go for. So that gives you an idea that even though I would say these are more affordable, they are not inexpensive. Any Merwin Hulbert is going to go for good money. And if you can get your hands on one that's mechanically and cosmetically in good condition for a really good price, you probably ought to pick it up because these things are just going up. And because they only made a few thousand of each model, you don't find all that many of them out there. So anyway, these guns are highly collectible, and there's a reason for that. Well, Merwin Hulbert began producing these medium frame double action revolvers somewhere around 1883, 1884. About the same time, well, a few years after really, Smith & Wesson had gotten going on their double action top break revolvers. Now, these were made in both 32 Smith & Wesson and 38 Smith & Wesson. This one happens to be a 38 caliber gun. And Merwin Hulbert revolvers have been called by a lot of experts the best engineered revolvers of the 19th century. And I would say that is probably true. But I've got to tell you that best engineered does not necessarily equal the best revolver. Though they are very good, and they have some really innovative features that they share with all Merwin Hulberts. So let's just take a minute and we'll talk about a couple of those. Now, during this era, Smith & Wesson really pioneered these 38 caliber double action revolvers. Colt had made their Lightning model, the model 1877, which is a great gun and was very popular with a number of Western gunfighters. The styling was very similar to a Colt single action army revolver at about 7/8 size. And it had a really good smooth double action. But evolutionarily, it was a dead end because it was so much like the single action army. It could only eject one at a time with an ejection rod. It had to be loaded one at a time through a loading gate. And by the time we got to the 1880s, that was passé. And what Smith & Wesson pioneered, of course, with their top break guns, starting with single actions, was simultaneous ejection. You open the gun. This one happens to be a safety hammerless, and it has a latch, a streamlined latch, which makes it a much better sighting gun, but makes it a little hard to open. Anyway, you open it up, and they all go flying out, and then you can load them one at a time, because they didn't have speed loaders back then. Those, I've told you in other videos, a J-frame speed loader will fit right in here and drop 5 in, but you could empty and reload pretty quickly and be ready to go, right? So almost all of Smith & Wesson and Colt's competitors copied the Smith & Wesson design. Nobody copied the Model 1877 Colt design. So everybody was copying these, and they literally made millions of these. Now, Merwin Hulbert, they weren't idiots, and they could see that double action revolvers is where the market was going. And they quickly produced a big bore double action revolver that I think is probably the most beautiful big bore double action revolver out there. And I would have one, but they cost anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000, so I'm probably never going to have one. But they are immensely cool. Good looking as they are, the Smith & Wesson big bore 44s, I've got the Frontier double action revolver in 4440, probably a better gun. And I'll tell you why. So it's the same thing with this. By the 1880s, these little pocket revolvers were all the rage. Smith & Wesson pioneered them. Everybody was making them. and Merwin Hulbert got on board, and this was theirs. And these guns had some interesting features. Now, where Smith & Wesson, you can see this, I'll put a picture up, they made a snag-free gun. Since it's a pocket pistol, I'm going to put it right in my pocket. Yeah. They made a snag-free gun by basically shrouding the hammer area and making it essentially a hammerless design. They call it the safety hammerless. So there's nothing to snag on your clothes when you drew it out of your pocket. Okay, very smart. The only bad thing about it is, and I just showed you that this is empty, but I'll show you again. Okay, empty gun. The only bad thing about it is there is no single action mode on this, right? It's strictly double action. Is that a bad thing? Maybe not, because what you're going to do with this was reach across a poker table and take care of business, right? So you're probably not doing a lot of precision shooting. But Merwin Hulbert went a completely different way. They came up with a folding hammer design. I'll give you a close-up of that. There's the hammer down, and here's the hammer up. So the beauty of that is you can still cock it for single action shooting, but it's folded in your pocket. It comes out and double action is fine. So it's really kind of innovative as far as that goes. Now, I'm going to demonstrate how this works later, but I'm just going to show you. The worst thing about Merwin Hulberts, in terms of what we're talking about, is that it loads from a loading gate, and you have to load them one at a time, just like a Colt single action. So they're a little bit slow to load compared to a top brake design. Now, this is a kind of a solid frame design, but I'm going to show you how these things work because it's not a top brake. You just see the entire barrel rotates and pulls out, and the empties fall out. So it's really pretty innovative. You can see everything closes right up, right? So that's the way it ejects them. So it does have instantaneous ejection of all rounds, and it's got another feature that I'm going to show you in a few minutes on ejection that it gets lauded quite a bit. I'm not really sure if it's a good thing or not, but it is a thing, and it's a thing that is unique to all Merwin Hulbert designs. So what did this have going for it? Well, it had one of the best double action trigger pulls on the market for these little pocket revolvers. It had the ability to shoot single action, which is great if you've got a chance, because believe me, even with a double action revolver, if you've got a chance to take a deliberate shot, your chances of hitting are much higher with a deliberate shot than they are with a double action shot that necessarily moves the barrel around more. So it gave you the ability to have single action and double action, but still have a snag-free design, right? So all that was pretty innovative, and that contributes to its reputation for being the best engineered gun. Also, the machining on these things was excellent. So just the way all of this works together, and the gun closes up, just a great little piece of engineering. It's unfortunate that they weren't more popular in the day. Well, Merwin Hulberts load through a loading gate, just like Colt Single Action Army or the Colt Model 1877. This is a design that was already obsolete by the time Merwin Hulbert designed this gun, because most double action guns of this era were being made with top brake designs, or Colt had already produced their first swing out cylinder models, which of course are going to be the wave of the future in the 20th century. But this loads one at a time through a loading gate, and now we're ready to shoot. Well, Evil Roy is up to his old tricks, terrorizing the good citizens of Bly Myers Hollow. So let's see if we can use the 38 caliber Merwin Hulbert in single action mode to make him mend his ways. I'm hitting a little high into the left. Alright, that's pretty consistent. I'm grouping about 3 inches left and maybe an inch or so high. Well, ejection of fired rounds is a method that's unique to Merwin Hulbert. So I'm going to put on half cock. There's a latch under the frame. I'm going to push that forward. And that allows the entire barrel assembly to rotate. And now I'm going to pull it out, and there we go. Well, we tenderized Evil Roy pretty good in single action mode. So I'm going to give it a try in double action mode. I don't really fancy my chances that well. I mean, I'd rather do it across a 3-foot table than we're about 10 yards over here. But we'll see how I do in DA. Well, I kind of surprised myself. I peppered Roy up pretty good with the double action mode. Now, it wasn't exactly rapid fire, but, you know, it wasn't super deliberate aim fire either, so I'll take it. Now, one of the Merwin Hulbert features that people tend to play up is selective extraction. And what I mean by that is, let's say you do what I just did, and I only shot 3 out of 5 of the chambers in this gun. So now when I empty it, it's only going to take the empties out. The cartridges that are unfired, they're not going to come out. So we'll flip out the empties, and I still have 2 cartridges in here. And I'll show you that again. See, what happens is the bullets are long enough that they stay in the chambers. This recoil shield has a little lip in it that holds the rim of the shells. Now, I'll tell you, sometimes when the empties stick and you shake it, you actually knock the rims out of that hook, and then you can't close it. So I'm not sure that this is always such a great feature, to be perfectly honest with you. But a lot of people tout it because now I only need to load 3 more in there to be good to go. And that's what I'm going to do. I found an unbroken clay bird up there by Evil Roy. I set it up. I'm going to see if I can hit it with the Merwin Hulbert. Now, I know I'm shooting a little left and a little high, so I'm going to see if I can find the aiming point on this thing. We'll see. First shot is a winner. Well, I'm over here at Swing City with Swing and Sam and the Circle Gang, and I'm going to try to tap each one of those in double action mode. So, see how I do. Well, 4 out of 5. I blew it at the end. Alright, we're back in the shop now. I just want to show you one more feature on the Merwin Hulbert 38 double action. And that's how it disassembles for cleaning. So you already know how it unloads, and that's how we start. So I'm going to put it on half cock. I'm going to push the latch that allows me to rotate the barrel. And I'm going to pull it out. It got a little fouled here because we did put 50 rounds through it. Now, right here, there's another latch. I'm going to push that, and that is going to allow me to take the barrel right off. And if I wasn't so fouled up, that's exactly what it would do. There we go. These are very tight. So, here we are, disassembled for cleaning, and you can see on the base pin there's this groove machined into it, and that's what the detent in that latch rides in, and that's what allows it to come off. And because of that, Merwin Hulberts were often sold with more than one barrel, so you could have a short barrel and a long barrel, all that worked on the same gun. So now that it's apart, oh, and I should also show you, it has a very generous side plate, so you can lubricate and clean the action parts. Alright, so I'm going to get it cleaned up, put it away, and well, we've had a chance to shoot the Merwin Hulbert medium frame 38 caliber double action revolver, and this is the first time I shot it, so I'm now able to form some opinions on it. As I said earlier, the double action trigger pull is silky smooth. It's beautiful. I mean, it's like a pre-war Colt or pre-war Smith Wesson, just fantastic. Single action trigger pull is excellent, and it allows you to have a single action trigger pull. So, on that score, I think I'm pretty happy with the gun. As expected, combat reloads, not all that fast. And I think we'd have to give the nod to to Merwin Hulbert's competitors there, Smith & Wesson, for having a faster system. Now, pardon me, this system is probably stronger than Smith & Wesson's top brake design, but really that didn't matter. I mean, with black powder velocities and pressures, just does not matter. So even though this is a well-machined piece of gunmaker's art, it was expensive to make, and I'm not sure that it gives you any real tactical advantage over its competitors. So, that said, Merwin Hulberts are just cool guns. They're fun to shoot. This gun was incredibly fun to shoot, maybe even more fun than its big brother, the Pocket Army I've got, because it's certainly easy on your arm. The recoil from 38 Smith & Wesson, really not much, especially with black powder load. So you can shoot this thing all day, and it's just plain fun. So if you get a chance to pick one up at a reasonable price, I say you go for it. So, you know the drill from here. Thumbs up, subscribe, and I'll see you next week.